Well, we're just getting hooked up here because we're going to demonstrate this on an iPad, which is what iBooks author is all about. So if you want to introduce yourselves, come on up front, and we're being filmed for a live broadcast.
I'm Eric Stazak. I'm a senior convergence student in the capstone class.
I'm Samantha Sunny. I'm also a senior in convergence.
I'm Rob Abel, and I'm also a senior convergence major.
Why don't you start out, just tell a little about your experience working with iBook author. I want to make a point that when we started this program, none of the students had any prior experience with iBook author, and this is a whole new experience for them in developing what we call news books here. It's a project we've been working on here since 2007. We've produced at RJI about 40 news books for news organizations over the last few years. And they're all available on the RJI website. If you go to rjionline.org /newsbooks, you'll find information about our project. And the purpose is really to help newspapers find a new source of revenue and a new way of being able to promote their series and special reports they do. In the years that we've been doing this now, working with members of our Digital Publishing Alliance, as a Knight Ridder, it's a Reynolds Journalism Institute initiative, working with about a couple dozen newspapers and news organizations. We now see organizations like the New York Times that have been a member, LA Times and others developing now their own eBook stores because the market is opening up for them. They're seeing the opportunities there to generate new revenue. All of our ebooks up to this point have been done in PDF, which makes them accessible on any device, which has been nice, but most of them have been set up for being distributed free. iBook Author is becoming more interesting because of the tablets that are now, or the iPads that are now on the market, and there's a sufficient number of them to make it a potentially lucrative business opportunity for news organizations to provide books in the iBook format. And the advantage, of course, is that with iBook Author, you can have multimedia components, video, audio, interactive graphics, and other material that makes it somewhat more compelling. The disadvantage, of course, is that it only works with the iPad and the smartphone, or the iPhone now. So there's some challenges, but at the moment it looks very promising. And so our test for this class was to have the students creating with material that we had from a news organization, text, video, audio elements, and interactive graphic to see how they could do producing it on their own, starting from scratch. I might add that there is another component of this, is that the experience for all of them as they graduate, and that I've tried to make the point about, is that as they go out into the real world working with news organizations, often what's going to happen is they're going to be handed something and say, okay, here, I want this done in the next couple of weeks. You've never worked with the software before, but you're going to have to figure out and solve the problem. So a large part of the course was really problem solving and finding ways to do things with a software they had not had previous experience with. So I'm going to let Samantha give some of her observations, and I'm going to get this set up, and then Eric and Rob will each speak about their experience so far.
Sure. So like Roger said, he has a lot of experience with ebooks in general, but not so much with this particular program. So it was new to all of us. It is actually a free software that you can get from Mac's App Store. But I mean, some stuff we've been experimenting with are what they call widgets within the program. So that can be like embedded media, interactive elements, things like that, pretty much anything that's not just text. So we've been experimenting with actually, so not just embedding a video, for example, in an ebook, but actually having the video, the file itself stored within the ebook. That was one example that I discovered early on was an advantage to this program was if you wanted to view a video with some earlier ebooks, you would click the play button and then it would actually flip you out of the whatever iBooks or whatever reading program you were using on that iPad and take you to Safari, for example, and then you could play the video in Safari. But with this, I mean, if you don't have an internet connection, for example, would be better because you can just play the video within it. And then another example is like, this is a photo gallery. So the photo gallery is one of the widgets, and I don't know, I mean, you can mess with the layout quite a bit, but that's what they all look like. There was another audio one if you go to the second page. So you can actually play the audio file. It won't, you don't need a separate app. So yeah, do you guys?
Actually, I might have Eric, I have another one, we're going to switch computers over in just a second. So
Okay, you want me-
Eric,
All right, that works.
I'll switch over to your.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Sammy on all of those points about, I think a lot of this has been trying to make use out of having everything so integrated, in that I think it is sometimes frustrating when you're working through something like an ebook or a website and you get sort of like hyperlinked to something else. And I think that makes the experience a little bit less sort of streamlined. And I think the big part about this is that you can have everything embedded together. Here's the second page, because I think that one still is having issues. That one should be fine. So at least as you can hear there a little bit, you can hear the audio and the video going there. And I think that's kind of a big advantage of it, because I think, for example, in class we went over the New York Times story Snowfall, which was incredible, and it had all these embedded elements all in this one big scroll of a page. And I think that that's sort of what we sort of do here, in that you can just flip through the entire thing and have everything sort of embedded into one streamlined sort of experience. And I think that in terms of difficulties or any issues, there hasn't been anything too major. I think because iBooks Author is fairly new and they're still trying to work out some kinks in terms of just getting everything streamlined. We have small issues, but pretty much in terms of layout and getting things to align with text and everything. But in terms of the actual macro level stuff, I think that it's been really effective. And I think I like even just being able to have a photo and having the audio button be embedded within the photo and sort of have it look just nice and streamlined from page to page. It has been a really cool experience.
It's been quite different working with iBook Author than working with Adobe InDesign, which is the preferred application for producing most newspapers and magazines, and producing some of the products for the iPad. iBook Author, as he pointed out, is still a work in progress, and they keep refining it. And we certainly found a number of glitches that we had to work around and solve. So I'm going to switch over to one other device here real quick. You want to talk about your experience?
With my experience, it was pretty much just trying to experiment and find ways that make it more interesting. Because the thing is, if you wanted a book, you would read a book. If you wanted to go online, you would go online. So I wanted to, how do you make this feel like, oh, okay, this is something new. This is a different reading experience. And, it's kind of like reading it. It's reading an ebook, and it should feel like more than just a book. It should have extra features, video, audio, and just ways to integrate that to make it user-friendly, as well as, just pleasant to use overall. Some of the things we work with were scrolling text for different parts, just so it doesn't look the same on every page. Ways that you embed graphics, and how the user interacts with those, and whether or not certain things work or don't work. Eric and Sam pretty much talked about all the problems and things we have, but those are my things, just trying to make it look different and make it seem like an experience and something that's fun to use, as opposed to just reading your average book on a Nook or something like that.
I'm hoping as they go out in the world and see the opportunities that are out there, perhaps they'll take advantage of what they've learned on working with iBook Author for other products. But we do think that's going to be a more important application for us to work with. And here at RGI, not only will we be producing news books in PDF, but we expect to be producing them also with iBook Author in the not too distant future. In each of the cases, I try as often as possible to work with graduate students to produce these news books and give them the opportunity to have an experience producing it. They get some credit for it, and they have something they can show afterwards. So this is still a work in progress, and they have to have it all finished by this coming Monday. And they had 6 chapters plus the introduction and like 2 videos, 3 or 4 audio elements, and an interactive graphic. They're still working on the interactive graphic. It's not turned out to be as easy for them to do, but I'm sure they'll solve that problem using layered elements within iBook Author. And they'll have it hopefully all finished for us to take a look at.
So Roger, once these tools are a little bit further streamlined or improved upon, what kinds of content from your experience are publishers most likely to be able to monetize using these tools?
Well, I think for newspapers, particularly news organizations that do a series, we're working very closely with the Center for Public Integrity and also with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. They're all looking for new opportunities to generate revenue and to be able to sell these news books. So obviously the added value, if they can have it with video and audio and make it a useful tool, the market for it, what we're finding so far, we did a test a few years ago. The market seems to be with universities, be able to use the series that newspapers have done in their course materials. So this is something that could be sold to students, to faculty, but also we're seeing quite a bit of interest among policymakers that want to be able to get the series that a newspaper has done. One of the arguments I've been making, and it's one I think we're starting to see some newspapers buying into, is that the future of newspapers may very well be, and it does appear to be, totally digital. One of the ways that they could take advantage of this is in the process of producing a series, which can be sometimes 4 or 5 days of broadsheet pages in a printed newspaper. Unfortunately, it usually ends up lining the birdcage or being used for some other purpose before it gets read. And on the web, unfortunately, most of these series tend to get buried on websites because the web people are more interested in the breaking news elements and the things that are changing constantly. An ebook has the advantage of having a very long shelf life. And to answer the question Mike had, is that with ebooks, or what we call news books here, that if they're being sold over a period of time, it becomes a long tail marketing strategy. So that any individual book might be $4, $5, some might be $10, but over a period of time, it could generate a significant amount of revenue. And my hope is that this will generate additional revenue to help support investigative journalism, which has been hurt badly by the recession and the cutbacks at newspapers. That's one of the first places that publishers have cut. And my hope is, again, Ben, that if we can show that there is a revenue potential from investigative journalism beyond just simply putting it in the printed paper and putting it on the website and giving it away for free, my thinking is that they might want to think about it first as producing it as an ebook to be sold, and in print, not running the whole content in print or on their website, but running excerpts the way they would do if they were covering a book that had been published. But they encourage people to go out and buy the ebook and make the point with their readers and subscribers that by purchasing this ebook on this series, they're contributing to the support for investigative journalism, which is really an important part of what we all are doing.